Welcome to Quick Shots. Quick Shots.
We're getting ready for the weekend. Welcome to Quick Shots with your favourite cousins, James and Alex Fitzgerald. I finally got the intro in ahead of Alex.
Welcome to the shots that are quick.
All right, I'll give you a quick question. In fact, the shortest one to start us off. It comes from Simon. Someone wants to know, how often should I be talking with my property manager and visiting my investment property?
Ooh. Okay, I'm just start at the back end of that one, Simon. Visiting your property, it's not critical, I would say. If you could see it every year or two, maybe that's good. I think the key, though, is actually ensuring your property manager is doing inspections every 6 months. I think, if you're a little bit conservative or you want to pick something up well before it's bad or, going to cause you real problems, that will be done in the report. And really, when you get those reports, don't be afraid to ask more questions about them. Ask more questions of your property manager. Hey, what does this mean? I saw this picture. It might be something that's not actually mentioned in the report by words, but you can actually see it in the picture. It's just sort of, It never helps to get ahead of those things. How often should you be talking with your property manager? For me, I actually talk to a couple of mine quite often. I think it depends on the property. One I've got that's a little bit older, I probably talk to that property manager the most, but she's fantastic.
Good call.
I personally think at least once a quarter. That's really not too hard, and you're getting your statements monthly. Some people more often. So there's plenty of opportunities for you to do it, and they're pretty consistently in front of you, or, in your inbox, if you will. So I'd just say keep on top of those reports, and they're sort of your main mechanism of open communication.
I agree. I think that's the best money you can spend, getting a report done every quarter where they inspect the property, send you a report with some photos. That is, some of them included in their fee, some of them charge you for it. Either way, I think it's money well spent.
Can you get them every quarter, cuz? Every 3 months?
I'm on every quarter. Yeah, every three months. Yeah.
I wonder if it varies by state how often you can actually do that. But ultimately, the tenant's got to be okay with it. Isabel, this one's from Isabel. We have been planning to buy. We've been planning to buy our principal place of residence in Sydney within the next few years. Nice. With the market coming back, do you think it's a good idea to buy today instead? And if we did buy, do you think it's likely that Sydney house prices will keep falling? That was a triple-barreled question.
Yeah. There's a bit to unpack. I think without knowing the exact circumstances, I think you should, provided that you can see yourself there for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think the rule is you've got to move in within about 12 months to, so even if you rented it out for the first 12 months and then moved in, that could be another option for you, Isabel. But look, I think Sydney market has come off a little bit. Majority of that's been in the top end. When you're buying property, you should always have that long-term view, but I think you would be buying well in Sydney today because I think as borders open up, international borders to bring in migration, Sydney is always the biggest benefactor of overseas migration. It's the financial capital of Australia, so it's going to pick up the lion's share of that. But yeah, provided you can see yourself there for 5 years, the rationale being that, the cost of getting in and out of real estate is so high that if you're not going to be there for 5 years, you're really not going to get the benefit of all those costs. And then, no, I don't think the market will keep falling, or if it does, I think it'll plateau and have another run again fairly soon. But, that shouldn't be a big issue if you're taking that long-term view, Isabel. Yeah. So good luck with that.
I agree. Kaz, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. You answered this question last week because we did talk about the big federal government incentive, which was the new Albanese government said that, hey, if we're voted in, we'll help new first home buyers with up to a 40% deposit, which is massive, as Mitch would say. Now, Kevin's written in post you answering that question last week saying, you guys talked about the 40% deposit incentive for the government. But he's also said, how are you eligible for that and what are the terms of my eligibility? obviously a very long answer, Cuz, that is online, but maybe you can shed a little bit of light for Big Kev.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's asked, is he eligible if his partner's already used it as well? So in terms of eligibility more generally and broadly, we don't know yet. There's an income requirement of, I think it was $90,000 for an individual, $120,000 for a couple on the federal government one. That was at the time of the election though, so we don't know that for sure just yet. We also don't know for sure what the qualification would be around whether your partner's already had it and you'd be eligible. Most states define it as your spouse can't have had it. And they do say that you'll be disqualified from getting the grant if you get financial assistance from a related person or someone who you are in a relationship with. So, look, Kevin, you got to be careful. If they're your genuine partner or spouse and they've got it, you should not be getting it. If it's, an early relationship, is my sort of read on that. If it's an early relationship and your finances aren't linked, you might be okay. But I'd be consulting someone who's got a full picture of your situation before looking into that one there, Kevin. But so look, that's probably the best help I can offer you until we see the full sort of legislation and what the criteria is, which should come out in about April or May next year in 2023.
And then when's it eligible from, Cuz? The 1st of July 2023.
1st of July. So keep an eye out for that one. Yeah, the government, basically they lend you 40% of the property value, and for those who missed it last week, take 40% of the increase in the property's value. So not as great as being able to do it on your own, but 60% of one is better than all of none, as the saying goes.
Because if anyone was going to give a politically correct, well-rounded answer, it was definitely you.
No, look, hey, we might wrap it up here because I know that Peter Credlin's got her, massive diatribe on Dan Andrews coming out, and given that she's there's posters of her at your house, I'll let you get home for the weekend to watch the second time that you've watched that on replay.
I got nothing to say to that.
All right, wrap it up, Nico. See you guys. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Double Shot with your favourite cousins, Alex and James Fitzgerald. If you've got a burning question or something we absolutely need to talk about on the pod, please write to us. Both of our emails are in the show notes. For little real estate tidbits and a little bit of banter, okay, a lot of banter, you can follow us on the gram. Our handle is thedoubleshot.podcast. That, my friends, is thedoubleshot.podcast. Until next time, think of us when you sit back and sip your next double shot.